Do you live life at 1% or at 20%? I'm going to tell you a story so you know what I mean. When I was living in Canada, I had a roommate who lived with me in this apartment. It's in a fancy skyscraper. Anyway, that's not important. But we had very, very different perspectives on how we would charge our phones. I am someone who, when the phone gets to below 20%, I know it's less than 20% now, but I will now charge it after this, will go and immediately find a charger, plug it in unless I'm out or something, and then charge it maybe up to 80 or to 100%, right? As soon as it gets under 20%, I'm trying to find a charger. My roommate, on the other hand, he was regularly having his phone at 1%. Regularly, his phone would be, he would go out, leave the apartment with his phone, and go on an adventure with his phone at 1%. And that is just wild to me, because as soon as I'm like, I need to find a charger, I need to charge my phone, because your phone even tells you go charge your phone, you're on less than 20 minutes, and it gives you these red and your battery goes, and he would charge his phone, fine, and maybe he'll get to 20 to 25% charge total, and that would do him, and then he'd do that a couple of times throughout the day, but it was so regular, and he used to send me screenshots like daily of his phone being at 1%, and I remember the one time in the many months I was there living with him, and that my phone one time got to 1%. And I think it just kind of shows a different perspective in life. And maybe, for him, he's like a lot more risk tolerant than me. Maybe I'm highly risk averse. Maybe I follow the rules too much because, I'm thinking, oh yeah, I've got to charge it at 20% and stop it at 80% because that will make the phone last longer. And, phones are expensive. This I've had for 6 years and the battery's still, it's coming down, it's not great anymore, but like still good enough. It gets me going, and like the phone I had before, it's a bit of a tangent on phones, but like, phones, I had a phone before that lasted 8 years and then I had a secondhand phone that lasted a few months, but like the progress of phones got to the point where like that phone felt very slow and dated, but like this phone now 6 years later is still pretty good. And I saw the stats of a new phone that came out like just recently, and it's like a lower tier phone, but like this phone still has better stats. And I got this, it's not a flagship or anything, but like still, for 6 years ago, and now even phones, the playing field is level anyway. The point being, back to the 1%, was I would freak out, if I was leaving the house at less than 20%. Whereas he just did it regularly, and there's a mindset there. And perhaps I should be more willing to take higher risks and live life at 1%, in the wildness. But my brain, particularly because I'm like trying to conserve the battery, make the phone, but like even that is so risk averse. I'm like, and maybe it's because I've grown up poor, I've grown up frugal, but he wasn't exactly rich either, and but this the necessity in me, and I think it was my mother particularly whipped it into me to not spend money unless you had to, and blah 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 blah, and like it was very strict and count your pennies and all of this, and from a very very young age, I was so and forced into me to not spend money unless it was an essential thing, and so for me, like there's such an emotional thing in there to not internally to spend money, and I'm trying to get over that. Like, of course I could afford to buy a new phone, right? That's not a ridiculous thing, but like the idea that I should have to until this one has completely been destroyed rather. But had I lived life at 1%, yeah, my phone wouldn't last as long, but maybe there is more to have out of life when you don't worry so much about it. I'm not saying I overly worry about it, the phone battery goes, but I'm not like freaking out. But it's like an analogy, isn't it? That there is life and still things that can happen. And when he was just not worried about it, he just didn't care. He just would be like, it's fine, it's whatever. And I'm not exactly a high worrying person. I'm very chill for the most part, but like I just was thinking it's a funny analogy for life, that for me, when it gets to the 20%, I'm looking for a charger, and for him, that was his max, my minimum was his maximum state of charge. And it probably has some aspect of how you make decisions and purchase things and go through life to some degree on a small level. Anyway, I just thought it was a funny analogy how different people go through life making very small decisions, but maybe those small decisions actually do influence us in bigger ways. Thank you for listening. Have a great day. I wish you luck.